Developing a Cancer Guideline question, sponsored by the Canadian Partnership Against Cancer. Good practice guidelines start with good questions. A good question sets the stage for a focused guideline and clear recommendations. Poorly crafted questions may add needless time, effort, and frustration, and can lead to recommendations that are not informative. Boo! So it's definitely worth taking the time to write a good question because the question is the foundation for the whole guideline development process. The acronym PICO is a tool to help develop guideline questions that are focused and answerable. PICO stands for Population, Intervention, Comparison, and Outcome. There are variations on the PICO acronym that take other things like target users, timing, and healthcare setting into consideration. Here's an example of a cancer guideline question using PICO. In the treatment of patients with melanoma, does the use of oral chemotherapy when compared with standard treatment improve survival? This question has all the components of PICO, but it could be improved. The question could be more specific and precise. Let's have a closer look at the components of PICO and see how we can make this okay question into a great guideline question. P stands for population, the specific group of people we're interested in. In our original question we said, patients with melanoma. Now unless we really want to write a guideline on all patients with melanoma, we need to narrow the scope to only those patients we are interested in. When thinking about the population, we need to think about certain characteristics such as cancer type, stage of cancer, gender, age, risk group, treatment history, comorbidities, etc. In our example, we're only interested in adults with advanced melanoma that has spread to other parts of the body. So, a more precise population for our question would be adult patients with unresectable metastatic melanoma. I stands for intervention, the thing that is being studied to see if it is the same or better than other options. In our question, we said that the intervention was oral chemotherapy. Now, we need to think, are we really interested in all chemotherapy, a certain class of drugs, just one particular drug, or just one dose of a particular drug? The way it's stated in our question, it seems like we're interested in all oral chemotherapy, but really, we're only interested in an oral drug called temozolomide. By stating this specifically, it eliminates all other possible drugs from consideration. So our question should say, the use of temozolomide. C stands for comparison. The comparison is often the option most commonly used in practice, but it is important to be more specific about what the comparison is, because the standard of care can change over time and may be different in other settings. Right now, we say the comparison is standard treatment. The standard treatment we're interested in for our patient population is an intravenous chemotherapy drug called dacarbazine. We should state that explicitly to avoid confusion and help eliminate unwanted search results. A more precise comparison for our question would be compared with dacarbazine. O stands for outcome. An outcome is a measure of effect that the intervention and comparison will have on the population of interest. These could be patient outcomes, system outcomes, or public health outcomes. Whatever the outcomes of interest, they should be explicitly reported, and only outcomes important enough to inform the recommendations should be considered. The outcome in our question is survival. There are many different measures for survival. We need to be specific about which one we mean. There may also be other outcomes that would be important to the patient, such as the response to treatment, the adverse effects of these drugs, and the impact on quality of life, like swallowing a pill instead of getting a needle. A better way to state our outcomes could be improve overall survival, response rate, adverse effects of treatment, and quality of life. Phew, that's a lot of things to think about, but it is worth taking the time to do it right and prevent problems later. So, our final guideline question becomes, in the treatment of adult patients with unresectable metastatic melanoma, does the use of oral temozolomide compared with dacarbazine improve overall survival, response rate, adverse effects of treatment, and quality of life? This question now allows for the development of specific literature search strategies, evidence selection criteria, and targeted evidence selection. Now we're well on our way to developing a focused guideline. This has been a presentation by the Capacity Enhancement Program, sponsored by the Canadian Partnership Against Cancer. For more information and useful tips and tools, please visit our website at cancerview.ca.